Okay, so for those of you who don't know, okay, right now the Trump administration is as leaky as a sieve. It is Swiss cheese. There are leaks out of the White House every 5 seconds. Ken Klippenstein was posting on Twitter about how every time anything happens, like 50 people run over to him and give him info. Nat Freeze is 2 p.m. EST. It is 2 p.m. EST. It's 3 p.m. EST. Nuts. Got to keep the time zones in your head. Anyway, we got a leaked memo last night. A freeze on all loans, assistance, and spending, like all of it, except for Social Security, Medicare, and direct payments to individuals. So stuff that goes through state programs or stuff that goes to NGOs, or for example, Medicaid have been frozen. Does this include FAFSA? My understanding is yes. This does include FAFSA. You got to understand, this was a leaked memo. This has already been applied. Snap. This is insane, and to my knowledge, against the law. It's a constitutional crisis. Like this is beyond the purview of the presidency. This is like an executive. Like it is up to the presidency to determine like the nitty gritty of how the budget that is approved by Congress is spent. But there are limits to that. This is absolutely insane. Listen to this. This was leaked. Remember? The American people elected Donald J. Trump to be president of the United States and gave him a mandate to increase the impact of every federal taxpayer dollar. In fiscal year 2024, of the nearly $10 trillion the federal government spent, more than $3 trillion was federal finance assistance such as grants and loans. Career and political appointees in the executive branch have a duty to align federal spending and action with the will of the American people as expressed through presidential priorities. Financial assistance should be dedicated to advancing administrative priorities, focusing taxpayer dollars to advance a stronger and safer America, eliminating the financial burden of inflation for citizens, unleashing American energy, they love that phrase, and manufacturing, ending wokeness and the weaponization of government, promoting efficiency in government, and making America healthy again. The use of federal resources to advance Marxist equity, transgenderism, and Green New Deal social engineering policies is a waste of taxpayer dollars that does not improve the day-to-day lives of those we serve. This memorandum requires federal agencies to identify and review all federal financial assistance programs, and then you've got the subnotes here, and supporting activities consistent with the president's policies and requirements. For example, during the initial days of his administration, President Donald J. Trump issued a series of executive orders to protect the American people and safeguard valuable taxpayer resources. They then go on to list a bunch of fascist executive orders. Ay, ay, ay. Look, the gist of it is that they are pausing all of this spending and fuddling around with stuff in the back end, which is, I need you all to understand this, okay? Absolutely insane. There is a difference between a like careful and calculated review of government spending by the executive branch in order to determine how to best allocate resources afforded to them by Congress, and just flat out stomping on Medicaid might be excluded. Medicaid is excluded. You don't understand how bad this is. From Maxwell Frost, just confirmed the Trump administration shut down the Medicaid portal for Florida. There are over 3.8 million Floridians on Medicaid. Every Medicaid portal in every state, tens of millions of people can't access Medicaid. It's medical care. This is unprecedented in American history. It's a complete constitutional crisis. In a sane country, this would lead to the immediate impeachment of the presidency. Like I know the Democrats don't have the votes for it, but this is like 5 alarm fire shit. Obviously, they're not going to do that. Trump administration denies it's pausing all federal grants after sweeping memo to government agency. Oh, I'm sure, of course. They're not pausing all grants, There are some specific clauses, Shutting down the Medicaid portals. I swear to God, if the Democrats don't pin this on the Republicans, if the Republicans just go, oh, it was like illegal aliens chewing on wires in the back room or something, I swear to God, man. It's still January. It's still January. This would speed along boomers. Boomers aren't on Medicaid. Boomers are on Medicare. Though there are some provisions where Medicaid influences Medicare spending if you're poor, I think. I wouldn't know. I haven't been old before. I'll get there. Medicare savings programs. Yeah, it's a big bloated bureaucracy. It's very complicated. What's Medicaid? Medicaid is government assistance to poor people for medical expenses. Medicare is for elderly people. They often overlap. The Dems are having a meeting tomorrow. The Dems should be having a meeting right now. What do you mean tomorrow? It's 3 p.m. over there. I'm sorry. Did you guys all take an early dinner? What the do you mean tomorrow? You all work in the same building. They needed a nap. Yeah, given the average age of a Democratic legislator, I suppose. I hate them. I hate them. I hate them. It's really bad. It's really, really, really bad. Like, one of the biggest worries for me is that this decision is so unpopular that it makes me worry they don't feel like they have to worry about winning elections in the future. You know what I mean? Like, this is one of those things that is so insane and so incompetent and so, like, deliberately obstructive to no end. Like, there's no political win here, okay? Tens of millions of Trump voters are on Medicaid. Trump did say they'd never have to vote again. That's true. Levitt declined to answer questions directly about whether or not Medicaid funding would be affected by the order. Oh, I bet. Can I get that video of the White House press briefing from this morning?
That he was going to lower prices, lower the cost of everything from groceries. As he
The first press briefing.
Story to tell about the legendary American revival that is well underway.
So this is hella illegal, but there's nothing Dems can / will do. But they should be screaming from the rooftop. They should be screaming deafeningly. They should be deafening everyone, every Democrat on every level. It's unbelievable. AOC had a good tweet. I'm not talking tweets. I'm talking you're in the Capitol building going up to Republican legislators asking them why they think it's okay to take Medicaid away from tens of millions of hardworking low-income Americans. I'm talking about getting every friend they have with a camera. Like, they're very powerful people.
And in keeping with this, Boston will be called the new media seat. To what those may be, and when I have an update, I will share it with you, Mike.
Carolyn, you say restore U.S. dominance. Is there a fear that the U.S. either is falling or has fallen?
Encourage anybody 100 days. So President Trump, I think you can all expect for him to continue to work at this breakneck speed. So I hope you're all ready to work very hard.
Where do they talk
I know
about
that
it?
We are. Zeke Miller.
Thanks, Caroline. A question that we've asked your predecessors of both parties in this job. When you're up here in this briefing room speaking to the American public, do you view yourself and your role as...
President Trump is looking out for you.
Transcript? Yeah, let me look at the transcript and look up Medicaid. All right, they moved where the transcript button is. Show transcript. Let's see. Here we go.
To homeless veterans, Medicaid provider states saying they're having trouble accessing the portal. Could you help us clear up some of the confusion, give some certainty to folks? And also, is that uncertainty, how does that uncertainty service the president's voters?
Well, I think there's only uncertainty in this room amongst the media. There's no uncertainty in this building. So let me provide the certainty and the clarity that all of you need. This is not a blanket pause on federal assistance and grant programs from the Trump administration. Individual assistance, that includes, I'm not naming everything that's included, but just to give you a few examples, Social Security benefits, Medicare benefits, food stamps,
what about
welfare
Medicaid?
Benefits.
Medicaid?
Assistance that is going directly to individuals will not be impacted.
He mentioned Medicaid. Well, I noticed that he mentioned Medicaid, but you didn't mention Medicaid when you listed the stuff that's not impacted
By this pause. And I want to make that very clear to any Americans who are watching at home who may be a little bit confused about some of the media reporting. This administration, if you are receiving individual assistance from the federal government, you will still continue to receive that. However, it is the responsibility of this president and this administration to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. That is something that President Trump campaigned on. That's why he has launched DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, who is working alongside OMB.
It's going to be a long 4 years.
And that's why OMB sent out this memo last night, because the president signed an executive order directing OMB to do just this. And the reason for this is to ensure that every penny that is going out the door is not conflicting with the executive orders and actions that this president has taken. So what does this pause mean? It means no more funding for illegal DEI programs. It means no more funding for the Green New scam that has cost American taxpayers tens of billions of dollars. It means no more funding.
We do deserve to suffer as a nation. The Green New Deal was never passed, and for like a decade now, they've mentioned it every single day as though it's a thing that actually exists. We do deserve. I think that maybe like religiosity might be our only way through it, because the best cope for this administration is believing that we're spiritually sick and need to suffer. I think that might just be the way through, you know? I'm taking on a whole new perspective, okay? I'm out there feeding like birds in a park. And later that day, if I see like a quarter on the ground, I'll assume God's rewarded me for my good deeds. If I go on, like, take a look at the news and see shit like this, I'll be like, well, I guess in a former life, like, I must have really fucked somebody over. You just have to, you got to round out the edges a little bit.
for transgenderism and wokeness across our federal bureaucracy and agencies. No more funding for Green New Deal social engineering policies. Again, people who are receiving individual assistance, you will continue to receive that. And President Trump is looking out for you by
Medicaid.
issuing this pause because he is being good steward of your taxpayer dollars.
Thanks, Caroline.
Sure.
How
Medicaid.
long is this pause going to last, and how is the Trump administration recommending that organizations that rely on federal funding make payroll, pay their rent in the meantime?
It is a temporary pause, and the Office of Management and Budget is reviewing the federal funding that has been going out the door. Again, not for individual assistance, but for all of these other programs that I mentioned. I also spoke...
the Green New Deal. You know, all these other programs, these very real programs that I mentioned, like the Green New Deal. Yeah, apparently she tweeted like 15 minutes ago. The White House is aware of the Medicaid website portal outage. We can confirm no payments have been affected. How exactly then were the portals affected? Just out of curiosity, how were all of these state Medicaid portals affected by a bill that ostensibly doesn't affect that at all? Like, what are you talking about? Total lie. Just a little accident, just a little fucky-wucky.
With the incoming director of OMB this morning, and he told me to tell all of you that the line to his office is open for other federal government agencies across the board, and if they feel that programs are necessary and in line with the president's agenda, then the Office of Management and Budget will review those policies. I think this is a very responsible measure. Again, the past 4 years...
It's, again, like immediate impeachment in a sane society. To bring about a freeze of this kind unilaterally with like no congressional oversight. Absolutely insane. It's like it is not the job of the president to determine what the budget is or where the money is spent, like past a point.
We've seen the Biden administration spend money like drunken sailors. It's a big reason we've had an inflation crisis in this country, and it's incumbent upon this administration to make sure, again, that every penny is being accounted for honestly.
Why impose this pause with so little notice? Why not give organizations more time to plan for the fact that they are about to lose, in some cases, really crucial federal funding, at least for a period of time?
There was notice. It was the executive order that the president signed. There's also a freeze on hiring.
There was no notice.
As you know, a regulatory freeze, and there's also a freeze on foreign aid. And this is, again, incredibly important to ensure that this administration is taking into consideration how hard the American people are working. And their tax dollars actually matter to this administration. You know, just during this pause, DOJ and OMB have actually found that there was $37 million that was about to go out the door to the World Health Organization, which is an organization, as you all know, that President Trump, with the swipe of his pen in that executive order, is no longer wants the United States to be a part of. So that
did she say 37 million with an M? Okay.
In line with the president's agenda. DOJ and OMB also found that there was about to be 50 million taxpayer dollars that went out the door to fund condoms in Gaza. That is a preposterous waste of taxpayer money.
I haven't talked about this yet, but did you know that we've shut down our like AIDS assistance programs worldwide? We've paused the freezing on that, which is probably going to lead to like millions more people dying of AIDS and HIV completely needlessly. Like we've assisted for basically like pennies on the dollar for like no money. Basically, we have massively halted the spread of AIDS and HIV and potentially saved millions of lives. And we're not going to be doing that anymore.
Money. So that's what this pause is focused on, being good stewards of tax dollars.
And so this doesn't affect Meals on Wheels or Head Start or disaster aid?
Again, it does not affect individual assistance that's going to Americans.
To follow up on Nancy, do you think there will be a list of who is affected and how much money is affected? How will these contractors and organizations know if they are actually having their funding frozen? And then secondly, if you're willing, can you just clarify, is the end goal of this to essentially challenge Congress or to prove that the president can withhold federal funding? In other words, is this an attempt to pick a fight to prove that he can?
It is. That's the actual reason for all of this. The whole goal of Project 2025 is like the unitary executive theory, the idea that you can shake down the system and break Congress and basically make a king. And this is like an attempt to do that. And the more they break the rules and they don't get punished for it, the more they get away with it. You win by a 1% margin and you get to you essentially get to like rule the entire country. That's essentially what they're doing.
Do this.
No, absolutely not. As it
course
says
not.
right here in the memo, which I have, and I'd encourage all of you to read it, it says the American people elected President Trump to be the president of the United States and gave him a mandate to increase the impact of every federal dollar. This memo requires federal agents.
You notice how they keep saying over and over that Trump has a mandate? Like, they no longer just talk about the president's goals as the thing people voted in. They have to keep referring to it as a mandate because they know they're overstepping their authority every time he does anything. Like, what they're implying is that his power goes beyond the democratic process. Because if all you're saying is he won the election, you wouldn't need to say he has a mandate from the people. Mandate from the people is shit, like it's Hitler shit. Like, you can make mandate from heaven jokes, but the idea that a ruler has power beyond that which is bestowed by the results of the election that got them in power, that is like Hitler shit. Yeah.
Agencies to identify and review all federal financial assistance programs and supporting activities consistent with the president's policies and requirements. The American people gave President Trump an overwhelming mandate on November 5th.
See, like, they have to keep saying it over and over again because they're trying to gaslight people into thinking that he won by a large margin. It was one of the closest elections in American history. They're desperate for people to believe. They want to beleaguer and badger and wear down Democrats. They want Republicans to wake up every day thinking, yeah, it was like a 60-40. It was like a 70-30. That's why Trump keeps saying ridiculously false shit, like he won the youth vote by 38 points. He's lying, obviously, but it's not a lie being said senselessly. It's not like dementia or whatever. It's just they believe it.
5th, and he's
Didn't Biden win by a bigger margin? Yes, by a much larger margin.
just trying to ensure that the tax money going out the door in this very bankrupt city actually aligns with the will and the priorities of the American people. So will there be a line?
Yes. Welcome. You look great. You're doing a great job.
Jesus Christ. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Chuck Schumer on Blue Sky. Trump's decision to halt virtually all federal grants. Okay. And loans is lawless, destructive, dangerous, and cruel. It's illegal, unconstitutional. It's Project 2025. Congress must act. That's great. Thank you, Chuck Schumer. That's great. Thank you. That's very helpful. Top Democrats are staying out of the Trump outrage cycle this time. That's good. That's great. The Democrats basically don't exist anymore. Like, this is why I say it's not even worth talking about them, basically, apart from disdain. They do not... yeah, it's a dead party. They look like, again, George, Mitt Romney and John McCain lost by huge margins to Obama, and they came back and won in 2016. Democrats lose by like 1.5%, and the party dies. In reality, like, the reason the Democrats are so quiet is not because they lost by 1.5% of the popular vote. It's because they lost by like 100% of the oligarch vote. That's the reason why. The real votes, the ones that are counted by the support and the mandate of the ruling class, overwhelmingly went to Donald Trump. So, like, the reason they're acting this way is because back in 2016, even though Hillary Clinton lost, they did not lose, like, the oligarch vote, basically. Disney was ready to have Hillary Clinton's robot animatronic thing in their Hall of Presidents. Most people were surprised Trump won. It was considered an aberration. At this point, though, they basically just accepted it. Democrats are being more measured because people are just so tired, so there isn't the energy to stay at an 11 for the next 4 years. Man, must suck, huh? I mean, Republicans get to hold like a nonstop, hyper-aggressive fascist rally for like 10 years now, and they seem to be going strong. Meanwhile, the Democrats are like, oh, we tried nothing and we're tired now. We tried nothing and we're sleepy. Watch Musk's salute to Trump supporters at inauguration. Phenomenal stuff, really. Vosh, what could the Democrats be doing at this point, given they're currently in the minority in every branch of government? I'm going to assume you're acting in good faith when you say this, and it's sad that your understanding of the power of the government is like limited to what the Democrats choose to do with it. Look at what Republicans have done every time they've been the minority in government. Like, literally, like, it's the Democrats are uniquely weak. And few got sucked into an outrage cycle over Elon Musk's straight-arm gesture during Trump's inauguration celebration. That's great, man. I hate to get caught in an outrage cycle over the most wealthy man on earth, Sieg Heiling, during the presidential inauguration of the person whose campaign he funded. I hate the straight arm gesture. Hate that shit. Would hate to fall for such a simple and misrepresentative ruse. When they go low, we go to bed. True. When they go low, we go sleepy. Apparently, many of the portals are back up. which makes sense because it looks like they were. I wonder if they were just like poorly defined by the bounds of the freeze. A lot of stuff isn't going to be coming back up, though. We might need to wait a few days to see what actually does like get put out there. The guards of the ISIS prisons in Rojava aren't being paid anymore because of the foreign aid cut. That's cool. Trump's global aid freeze has cut the salaries paid to many of the prison and camp guards responsible for securing 9,500 ISIS militants and around 40,000 associated women and kids in Northeast Syria. Huh. I mean, you either like hold them there without pay, let them go, or kill them. I guess we'll see how that one pays out. Round 3, baby. Killing POWs is pretty though. I feel like I know the ISIS are technically POWs. I just feel like they're POWs asterisk death cult. But yeah, you shouldn't kill them. But I didn't say you should. I'm just saying like one of those things is going to happen. So Rojava administration's not paying them out of pocket. I'm sure they'll be. Listen, they can just like bake them some bread. Okay. What matters more when you're out there on post guarding a jail cell? Okay. A salary that you're not going to be able to spend until you get back to base or whatever, or freshly baked bread. Oh, they got the money back. Oh, that's nice. Isn't it crazy? Like it's crazy how much the like tech billionaire mantra of move fast and break things is applying to the current administration, where they do everything immediately with no guards, break everything, and then hastily try to fix it back up. Good news: the civilian management of the Al-Hol and Al-Roj camps is back to work today, having been turned on by the State Department overnight. Nice. I mean, you know, would have been cool if they'd like checked over this beforehand, I guess. The top comment. Dude, who cares? The average MAGA wants to like mass execute 20 million non-criminal brown people in the country. Like them wanting to kill ISIS militants is like so far down on the more like if their bloodlust could be constrained exclusively to ISIS POWs, then that would be like several orders of magnitude better than what we have to deal with now, you know? Feels like they're testing the waters on what they can get away with. 100%. It's all part of bringing things together under the unitary executive theory. The fact that they're going to get away with this with no pushback, no legal challenge, the fact that this is just going to like sail right through with no problem, that means they can get away with whatever they want. If the executive branch is capable of unilaterally deciding how to spend the budget in bad faith, there might as well not be a Congress. There just might as well not, like, who the fuck, like, whatever. The Congress at that point is just like a green stamp, you know, a legitimizing mechanism. The president can do whatever they want. Isn't the filibuster for this? No. The filibuster refers to votes going through the Senate. This is a unilateral action by the executive branch. Why do Democrats always say Congress should do something when they are Congress? Because they're just useless. They do not have any theory of power that extends beyond the limits of like institutional reform. That's the only system they think works. Meanwhile, the Republicans have infinite power because they believe in power. Trump fired both Democrat labor board officials. It's not surprising. I agree with this tweet. What are they supposed to do about this? Unify around a message of pure opposition, organize a media strategy with guts, no votes for Trump nominees, slow down everything MAGA in Congress as much as possible, no both sidesism, resist encroachment at the state level, support based commentators. It's a start. Yeah. Remember back when Obama had both halves of Congress, and even then Republicans would stall everything he wanted to do. They would filibuster. They would say in bad faith, like, actually, I want to, like, you know, negotiate a bipartisan consensus on this, so on and so forth. And as a consequence of that, and the Democrats being dickless, they were able to slow Obama down massively in the first 2 years, which allowed them then to get a majority. One half of the houses in 2010. Whatever. Dem should hire Mitch before he dies. Yeah, at least he knows what he's doing. Mitch McConnell is more competent and more politically educated than any member of the Democratic Party. It's disgusting. Relevant Mitch McConnell quote: "The single most important thing we want to achieve is for President Obama to be a one-term president." Well, unfortunately, Democrats already lost on that front with Trump. Just sucks he's misaligned with our interests. I mean, MAGA hates him, even though he's literally the reason they exist today. So, I mean, the Medicaid portals might still be back up, but you guys have to understand that this goes so far beyond that in terms of like where that money is going, from any number of assistance programs to like NGOs. We're talking about like an obscene amount of money that has been frozen, that they're still freezing, and they got Medicaid back up and running, maybe, but
President Trump signing another flurry of executive orders reshaping the federal government, including a pause in all federal aid spending. Today, New York's Tracy Strahan's in the newsroom now with reaction and potential impact. Tracy.
Well, Darlene, things like disaster relief aid, education, and transportation funding are all on the table. The Senate's top Democrat says President Trump's move to suspend these federal payments blatantly disobeys the law. In an internal White House memo obtained by NBC News from a source, the White House Office of Management and Budget announced that all federal agencies would be forced to suspend financial assistance payments, with the exception of Social Security and Medicare. Now, that same memo says this is a pause that would be temporary and would allow the Trump administration time to determine.
I love how the media is reporting on this as if it's just a normal and settled thing and not a constitutional crisis. Yeah. I blame the Democrats for this as well. I'm sorry. It's hard for me not to.
The best uses of funding that's consistent with the president's priorities. The order already sparking backlash on Capitol Hill, as it has the potential to impact domestic infrastructure projects, climate initiatives, and DEI funding as well, things that are given by both state and local governments. Now, in announcing the freeze in a memo, the acting director of the Office of Management and Budget said in part, quote, "The use of federal resources to advance Marxist equity, transgenderism, and Green New Deal social engineering policies is a waste of taxpayer dollars." A number of Department of Justice lawyers were fired late last night before this memo for, quote, "playing a significant role in prosecuting President Trump." More than a dozen inspectors general were fired.
The impartial like repeating of this news is, as far as I'm concerned, fascist propaganda. How can you as a journal, like, again, what's the job of a journalist is not to hear from one person saying it's raining outside, one who's saying it's not raining, and then go, oh, well, you decide. It's to check to see if it's raining and then report on that, you know? To read out loud the paragraph of ending federal funding for the Green New Deal program and not amend that with any, like, just to be clear, that never happened. That's fake. That's completely fake. Just insane. This country's so cooked, dude. It's so over. I'm gonna live out in the Yukon. I'm gonna train a team of Huskies to run on a treadmill to power my streams. I'm gonna get Starlink if they let me.
This morning, another sweeping action by President Trump as he remakes the federal government in his first full week in office.
Again, this is MSNBC. This is the news channel that people talk about as though it's like the left equivalent of Fox News. So here's a wildly unconstitutional, illegal action by the president to consolidate power in a unitary executive sense, okay? Let's see how they report on that.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Overnight, NBC News learning that the White House has ordered a freeze of federal aid starting at 5 p.m. today.
My administration has been moving with urgency and historic speed to reverse every single disaster of the Biden administration.
The new head of the government's budget office saying in an internal memo obtained by NBC News that the pause extends to, quote, all federal financial assistance and activities affected by President Trump's recent executive orders, including foreign aid, non-governmental organizations, DEI, woke gender ideology, and the Green New Deal. The memo says Social Security and Medicare will not be affected, and neither would payments directly.
You can really feel the partisan left bias coming off of this, you know? It really feels like they're mounting a resistance. Is it any wonder that more and more people support Trump now? Is it any wonder that his favorability went up with the media being as it is? You have to understand, okay? This has nothing to do with the voters. There are like 5 people who control all media in the West, okay? And they all know who they side with. They might play ball sometimes, they might pretend to be a little bit more impartial, but they know what they're doing, okay?
From the government to individuals.
The crazy thing is, Fox News is the only news channel that's doing well anymore. CNN, ABC, NBC, MSNBC, their ratings have tanked. Fox News is the only one doing well. So it's not as though CNN, MSNBC, whatever, are doing what they're doing to make money. They're losing money. They're deliberately choosing to strangle the ratings of these news companies rather than to allow them to represent the genuine need for partisan left news coverage in this country. Like, so it's not even monetary interest. That's what people need to, people sometimes they're like, oh, well, they're just like CNN's kowtowing to the moderates to make more money. No, they're losing money on it. They're acting in their class interest, not in their own monetary interest. This goes way beyond that.
But many Americans get federal funds on everything from loans to food aid to farm assistance indirectly, and it's unclear if those programs would be affected. The order says it's targeting the parts of the government that will be changed by President Trump's recent executive actions. That could include everything from some efforts to lower prescription drug costs to clean energy jobs and programs. Congressional Democrats...
Okay, yeah, thank you. I get it. We get the left partisan bias there. Really feeling the resistance build up.